Hello everyone, Hotfix 7.0.3 has finally released from beta, and it looks like it's got a lot of changes, including some extra additions. I didn't cover this during the beta, mostly because I think by the time that this had come out, I had just moved, and obviously I was busy with other stuff, like trying to get my heating sorted. But I've just had a little bit of a gander of all the fixes, including the additions, and they're quite good. So we're going to jump right in, going straight into campaign, as there's no point talking about the highlights and the additional fixes, as they're just integrated. So they're mentioned multiple times. So we'll start off with General fixed an issue introduced in 7.3 beta, where the option to subjugate a faction would sometimes not appear after defeating them. Great, you know, new issues popping up and they're getting fixed just as quickly. Fixed an issue to make new DLC units available through allied recruitment. Okay, that's pretty good. That's a nice one, actually. Resolve the rare crash on campaign start turn. Yeah, that can happen. Sometimes it's really, really weird. Non-player control characters will no longer show their movement points bar. But I thought people wanted that. The swap auxiliary approval pop-up will no longer improperly appear when unequipping certain auxiliaries. Cool. Fixed an issue where building construction missions would not load correctly. Yep. Ruins raised by Beastmen, Warriors of Chaos, and Norsca will now keep showing the proper model in the campaign map after a game is reloaded. Fixed the voiceover when selecting a hero embedded in an army. Now the hero's voice will be heard. I thought it was weird. I just never really noticed that. Fixed a problem with the voiceovers of the characters in the diplomacies panel. Fixed an issue where forces garrisoned in port settlements couldn't retreat after a battle was initiated. I hate that, to be honest, because it happens way too often. And you'd think some of those factions would keep their troops in during their last fights, right? Let's continue, because it is one of those annoying ones. Resolved issues with multiplayer campaigns simultaneous turns where one player couldn't recruit lords if two players held the same province partially. What a specific bug. Fixed the cost for replacing the lord with a previously wounded legendary lord not showing. Fixed the recruitment panel of saved lords not showing correctly. Fixed pinning maps not persisting after returning from battle. In multiplayer, the pre-battle spectate button should now be visible at all times. Fixed an issue in multiplayer where a friendly player faction could appear as an enemy to Aisling's player in the pre-battle screen. Weird. Fix certain starting armies in Realms of Chaos campaign from being unable to move after their faction is confederated. Some people might ask, well, why are they doing that? Nobody plays it. They still have to bug fix it, especially as a lot of new players have joined in. They fixed some translation stuff, replaced a placeholder image on the Nemesis crown thing that just keeps returning, and some performance issues with Chinese text, which, I mean, you know, that's good. More performance fixes is always good. There is a stupid amount of fixes coming in for the High Elves, which we love to see. So, Aisling should now be able to control settlement garrisons in defensive battles, even when the Sea Patrol outpost building is upgraded to one of its higher tier variants. The Elven Colony building, Seafarers Guild Hall, and Mistwalker's Lodge have had their effects adjusted to improve balancing and pacing. So the gold maintenance cost has been removed, great. The Dragon Ship supplies income has been increased, awesome. And the Mist Mage Hero Unlock has been added to the Mistwalker Lodge. Great. I know some people aren't too keen on that lore of magic, but you know, getting access to it is going to incentivize people to use it more. Fix an issue where Aisling's starting enemy would flee across the sea, forcing a long chase. The enemy will now stay nearby, making encounters more straightforward. Karajan should now be able to select the mounts from his list of mounts, so if you want him back on foot, you should be able to. Some lords and heroes in Teclis's faction had missing mount skills. These should now appear properly. Great. Moved all regions seeability from Herald of Civilization to Spy Networks for Aisling. Added 15% port construction cost reduction to Heralds of Civilization. Awesome. Removed 1,000 gold cost for trade advancements for all Elven factions. Aisling excluded. Fair. That's good, though, because, it's just, the cost sometimes, you want that early and you can't justify it. And increase the gold cost of all of Ulthuan's legacy texts with a 1,000 for Aisling to be brought on par with the other Elven text trees. Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Fixing Sea Patrol outpost buildings, not giving control bonus to player regions in the same province. Aisling should now have access to the encamp stance when confederated by another high elf faction. Great. The technology Heralds of Civilization should now properly apply its effects to lords recruited from colonies or outposts. The technology Court Advisor should now correctly apply its effects on lords and heroes recruited from colonies and outposts. So this is something that is like weird, but like it's a separate type of recruitment, which is why it can have some bugs and not be the same as normal recruitment. There's a lot of extra stuff here, as you can imagine. It's going to be a big video, I think. So fix missing movement audio for Dragonship and Seafang, resolved an issue with patrons of Orphan where protection actions could lose their functionality, corrected the porthole image for Aisling and the unit card. Yeah, that one was weird, but it happens a lot to like different units. One of the dilemma options in the dilemma of Vindictive Noble in Patrons of the Realms was incorrectly stating that the player will keep patronage slot if they choose that option. This should now correctly state that the patronage slot will be lost when choosing that option. Weird. When using Champion's Demand Teleport, the targeted force next to Tyrion will now even go into sea. Okay. I guess that works. Fix an issue where players could select faction leader characters with a Champion's Demand ability from the Champions of Orphan mechanic for Tyrion. Fixed a problem with some characters using sea lanes would wrongly send players back to the entry point instead of their intended destination. Wow, weird. I guess it's because it's supposed to like, what that does is it deletes the army and then just like redoes the army. So I guess that can happen. It can cross some weird lines. I'm going to skip anything to do with custom battles, so yeah. Reduce the amount of AP granted by the War-worn Stronghold Elven landmarks from 20 to 5. Wow, that's a hell of a reduction. Construction cost reduction effects for outpost buildings should now correctly apply to landmark buildings in the outpost. Great. That's something which is quite important because they're quite expensive. Improve the quality of the unit card portrait for the Sea Helm variants. All right. The technology Sea Trade Escort should now correctly apply its growth effect. Cool. The technology Mistborn Strength should now correctly apply its recruitment rank effect. The technology Chariot Anthem should now provide the correct amount of unit mass to Skycutter units. It's something kind of weird where technology isn't working sometimes and so on. And I guess, I mean, it's a fix-it-later approach, but I guess they didn't really have too much time. This DLC was delayed a few times because they wanted to change stuff around, and these things can pop up. High elf technologies that reduce the recruitment cost for certain units should now properly reduce the recruitment cost for regiments of renown as well. Great. The technology Seasoned Militia now should correctly provide its bonuses versus large benefit to the listed units. Sometimes it can just miss a unit. This is why that unit card stuff is really important. Fixed issues where some animations weren't playing sounds. Cool. The building Azure colony should now correctly grant a point of Elven colony availability when it's constructed in a minor settlement of the ancient colony type. Cool. The vigor loss reduction effect of the Ritual of Mistwalker reinforcements in the Champions of Orphan should now affect all units in the target army instead of just the Mistwalker units. Awesome. Fixed foreign slot buildings being incorrectly displayed as unbuildable in the building browser. This is happening a lot. It gets fixed and then it disappears, and it's just weird. An army in Mist Landing stance should now be able to attack a settlement even when the settlement is under blockade from another army. Oh, I like that. Yeah, I actually really like that. The Assault Domination powers available notification should no longer appear when the player can't afford to unlock something new in the Assault Domination. Awesome. That can be annoying. There's a lot of annoying pop-ups in the game. When Aisling gives a settlement to the United Maritime Patrol, he should now receive a bonus to diplomatic relations with that faction. Amazing. That's what was needed. Actually, I think I mentioned that in the review, that it wasn't working. The pre-battle spectate button, that's AI factions. The pre-battle screen when Aisling is able to control a settlement garrison's defense should now have the same layout in a single multiplayer and multiplayer modes. Cool. When Aisling confederates with another high elf faction, he should now have automatic military alliance with the United Maritime Patrol faction. I haven't seen too well on how that faction works in regards to aggression and bringing you into other wars. That should be kind of interesting, because then player bias comes into effect. Not sure if I like that. Like an automatic non-aggression pact and trade agreement would be fine, I think. Fixed an issue with the mission Caradrian, Faithfully Azure for higher factions, where it could lead to 2 instances of the hero being spawned for 2 different factions. That's a shame. I think a lot of people quite like that, but I guess it makes sense. He's a named character. And fixed broken encampment stands for dragon ship horde armies, aging unaffected. Great. Yeah, all good fixes. A lot of fixes coming in for Slaanesh. So fixed the bug where there was a chance for Azazel not to be able to dedicate a Lord for Slaanesh. Azazel has 3 options to dedicate a Chaos Lord. 1 for Slaanesh, 2 for Demonoid. So 1 directly for Demon of Slaanesh. Change the effects of Scent of Despair level 3 to be a proper upgrade to Scent of Despair level 2, granting magical attacks to affected units and removing immune to psychology from enemies. Awesome. Fixed an issue with T'Challa's hands-on mission of being aborted. Added a fix for users that were affected. Yeah, so this is so you can actually trigger the campaign stuff, which is really good. It's weird because it was working for some people, it wasn't working for others. It's just odd. Fixed an issue where the Eternal Entourage Regiment of Renown would not be included in campaign effects that affect other Slaanesh cavalry units. Cool. Fixed an issue where T'Challa's innate trait, the Mistress of the Tormentors, would only increase base weapon damage and not AP. AP is so important for Slaanesh. Fixed a crash with T'Challa on end turn later in her campaign progression. Yeah, again, very weird thing that's been happening, but it's good to see this fixed now. It's taken a small while, but obviously Christmas break comes in, and that's it happens. During the onboarding for Marks of Vindictiveness, the UI panel no longer can be closed to prevent a soft lock where user decides to dismiss the panel right before starting the onboarding. Yeah, fair. That as long as it solves all the soft lock issues, that's great. Torment Distribute button highlight will now only appear once when reaching 200 Decadence. Core fixed an issue with the scripts that would happen when a dance general would die in the beginning of a turn while the ritual is being progressed. Alright, the building Slaanesh outpost should no longer give T'Challa or the Mask of Slaanesh a bonus to seductive influence. But it should still give the Mask that, right? The Mask's Eternal Dancer trait should now correctly reduce the recruitment time for Exalted Demonettes. Amazing. That means I can actually have another campaign run with the Mask, because that was kind of annoying. I completed the campaign on stream and stuff, but, I like to play this in my own time too. It was just you want Exalted Demonettes, and there was no reason to get them because of the recruitment time issue. Fix potential incorrect behavior after using the plunge into anarchy on the Mask of Slaanesh. Oh, that's for Slaanesh, isn't it? I wonder what was the issue. The onboarding restrictions that blocking the closing the panel of the Mark of Vindictiveness will be available if the user has 200 Decadence. That's weird. That was weirdly written. The second step for the Eternal Dance scripted tour is on the left side of the UI panel with adjusted length and strength. Something is weirdly written here, right? The second step for the with adjusted length and strength. It just feels weirdly written, doesn't it? To prevent the text to appear out of the screen. The third step is changed to on the left side to prevent... Yep, okay. I don't know, that's just kind of thrown me off. During the scripted tours, Pleasure Palace and creating a thrall settlements, the options to subjugate and create a vassal no longer active to prevent a soft lock. Yep, because it can happen. Not if you're used to the game and stuff, but if it's a first-time player, it can lock them up. The ritual, the ending without end, should no longer be able to target Zhao Ming and Miao Yin. Makes sense, they're legendary characters. The unholy manifestation, Carnival of the Damned, should no longer display an incorrect effect scope of local enemy province. Not a lot of people use the manifestations, I think, for Slaanesh. They're not really good. The ending without end will now always properly replace the targeted army commander with a Slaanesh one. The Triumph and Torture Slaanesh tech should now provide useful effects to players who don't have access to Chaos Sorcerers and Exalted Champions of Slaanesh. So, if you don't have that DLC, you should be fine. But you should get the DLC, in my opinion. It's very good, and it finishes up your Slaanesh roster. Subjugating a faction should now provide a more substantial temple reward for the Mask's faction. Cool. The Lord skill, the Promise of Perfection, should now give T'Challa a bonus to corrupt units instead of seduce units. Yeah, there's still a lot of weird stuff with seduction, so it's good to see that being fixed up, because she doesn't have seduction. The cost for changing between dancers for the Masks faction has been increased. Yeah, makes sense. The subjugate post-battle option should now correctly provide devotees for the Mask of Slaanesh. Fixed an inconsistency with one of the bullet points on the devotees' crossbows, cool. Fix casualties post-battle effect in local province for demonic mounts, building chain, T'Challa. Adjusted the porthole. Yeah, like portholes are weird right now. Pleasure palaces and thrall settlement scripted tours will trigger during the end turn cycle. Cool. The technology overbearing force should now benefit the champions of SRINIVASAN. There's not a lot of technologies that actually benefit them, which is weird, because like you'd expect a lot of the technologies for the aspiring champions to affect them. The T'Challa's demonic attraction units should now properly display the demonic influence bonuses in battle. Cool. Let's continue, because there's so much. It's actually a really, really large hotfix. So where were we? Eternal Dance. Fixed an exploit where the player could change its army's general without temple penalty being applied. Yep, fair. At the end of the day, it was kind of exploity. Mask of Slaanesh fixed an issue where the incessant dance was not providing the extra tempo bonus. Missions related to unholy manifestations will no longer trigger for T'Challa. Yeah, she doesn't have them. It's weird. It was there during like the early access period, as you've seen through some videos, but like obviously she's a mortal character, so she shouldn't have that. Modified UI to better accommodate new elements. Okay. Context would be nice. Fix text spelling issues for T'Challa's quest battle. Remove the ability to click through inactive Lord Seduction as button as Nakari core. Assigned the proper model unit cards and portholes to Chaos Sorcerer. Again, same thing. Fix Thrall's icon being visible in the city info bar after converting the settlement. Mask of Slaanesh fixed an issue where Disciples armies would gain or lose temple after battle even though they can't have access to the dance feature, and fixed an issue where the pleasurable axe for Nakari and the mask would incorrectly have a turn cooldown. Okay, cool. So that's going to get reduced. I hope. Alright, so we got a bunch of fixes also for Norsca. This is so big of a patch, oh my god, and it's just a basic hotfix. So Wolfric's Mock God building now provides the Chaos Warriors Corn dual weapons units to users which don't own Tides of Torment. Cool. Fixed a problem with the old version of the Monster Hunt missions, which could make event missions appear on the screen. Yeah, because sometimes this is something that happens with creative assemblies. Like they'll change stuff around, they'll do a big rework or whatever, but they won't remove a lot of stuff from the database, which will then pop up and cause some problems. The Dreadmore should no longer be able to damage gates while on the ground. Sad, but it makes sense. Fixed placeholder text for the surface ability. Added Siege Attacker to Sail the Faithless to be consistent with all the Legendary Lords. See, I don't think that the Siege rework is coming anytime soon, I think. But it makes sense, because obviously he's a Legendary Lord. Fixed the Bloody Promises instantly advancing the recruitment of all armies within the faction. Fixed a problem with the monster hunts where trophy hunts could be unlocked without completing any taming hunts. Alright. Corrected the porthole image once again for Sail. Sail's Mutinous Whispers manipulation should no longer be able to target Legendary Lords. Oh, that's sad. That's sad. I guess that makes sense. Fixed an issue with the army deployment in the Abyssal Shrieker battle for the Monstrous Arcanum. Doesn't really say what it is. Alter the Eagle for Norsca now gives research point surplus rather than research rate. Yep, that's fair. And the rebalancing is from 5 to 10, 15 to 25. Yeah, okay, no, 5, 10, 15, 25 to 25, 50, 75, 100. Yep, that's great. Fixed an issue with Desolation of Kislev. Tech wouldn't be unlocked after occupying Kislev. Great. Fixed an issue where causing the Watts starts the war technology to grant 360 missile block chance for all units regardless of rank. Really? Oh, right. That's scary. The enemies of the second stage markers of Monstrous Arcanum hunts will no longer be able to retreat. Good. The retreating thing is so annoying. So, I mean, again, this gives me another reason to do more Norsca. They fixed some text, so it only applies to units of rank 7 for the Ice-Blooded Strength technology. Fixed an issue where the Violent Evolution tech would not grant its bonus to Regiments of Renown. That's a common thing. Fixed the starting level of Burple Smirk Spear Spit and Azric the Macekeeper when accessed through the Replace the Lord panel. Cool. Both very good, like, well, technically pseudo-legendary lords, really. The Dreadmore should now be able to underburrow and beneath a gatehouse. Nice! Cool. Good. Like, it's one of these weird things, like, you expect it to be a very good siege weapon, because, like, in combat, it's kind of crap, right? I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's not great. Making the skills button inactive when the currently selected character shouldn't be able to open the character details panel. Why is this weirdly written? It's weird. I guess they probably wrote this off in a bit of a rush or something. Fixed the invalid flag not showing for the characters at sea. Fixed an issue where the shaman sorcerers summoned the shamanistic ritual army ability would appear twice on the chariot. Cave of the Rocky Throne landmark building should now appear for Frog's faction in the settlement layer of the Troll King. Great, because it was weird during the early access and not having it. The frenzy effect in Morkin's Rest now correctly applies its scope to as settlement garrison. Fixed the discoverability effect showing twice for Chaos Altar buildings in gates and forts and bastions. Fixed duplicated monstrous arcanum markers when losing the Hunt quest battle. Yeah, people can lose that battle. They can be quite weird. Bonus to character health for items from now correctly reflected in the character details panel. Fix the targeting being disabled when hovering off effects. Adulterous bonuses will now always properly get applied to armies in the province. Cool. Fixed the allegiance heroes appearing with level 1 recruitment when accessing them through the replaced Lord panel. The pop-up for capturing a settlement will no longer be visible after loading a save file. Strange. Fix the marauding actions despoilment to award the appropriate amount of resources. Okay. Fix the issue where Norsca marauding actions will incorrectly have a 5-turn cooldown. Great. That should be a bit better. Rebalance despoilment from 1,500 per settlement to 1,250 per settlement. Mutinous Whispers can be used on lords without units by design. Only difference is that lords and heroes within an army are always wounded. If there's no normal units, and then no rebel army will be spawned. But the lords and heroes will be wounded, and the targeted army disappears from the campaign map. Okay, great. The effigies of chaos effects will no longer be applied multiple times. Fixed an issue with the availability of the skin hidden plate auxiliary. Fixed an issue with the post-battle death animation of the Marauder Chieftain Lord. Some of Steerkar's skills have had their positions adjusted. In addition, the skill Follow the Leader now affects Warriors of Chaos of Slaanesh as well. Nice! Okay, yep. Nice, I'm happy about that. Very, very happy. And while Wolfric is garrisoned in a pole settlement, the settlement nameplate should no longer state that he can teleport with Seafang to another port settlement. Great. Cool. A lot of fixes for other races too, which I'm genuinely surprised about. So Dark Elves fixed a minor Black Arc issue with the campaign map UI label to visualize properly the purpose of its hordes. Cool. Fixed an issue where Lokia's cost to travel was negative. Now displays as an absolute value. Okay, so maybe you were getting money back. The replenishment from allegiance and altars to the crow has had its text changed, so it should be clear what the effect does. Demons of Chaos. During the Demon Prince customization skills UI button is disabled to prevent soft lock. Yep, cool. Dwarfs. Fixed a visual issue with the creating gaps in models. Oh, yeah, that's where for some reason, skin would just disappear and you just end up with, no texture and stuff. It happens, oddly enough, a lot. Same thing with teeth with some units. Kislev. Caught in Orthodoxy, when you gain or lose boons, their value is immediately updated in the HUD. Good, because then you can't really plan too well, and it can be kind of buggy. And then Khorne here. The Cloak of Skulls removed an option to click on inactive teleport button. Wrath of Khorne added a frame to the panel and fixed the chains that spilled out of the panel. Great. Fixed the problem with Blood Host armies where they would be costing upkeep while moving through a sea lane. That's so specific. I've never moved the Blood Host army through a sea lane. Weird. Okay, we got a lot of changes coming in for Zine. So fixed an issue where Kairos would have all of his spells separated in different categories when in battle. Yeah, that's something that is... anytime that you have a multi-lore, essentially, it can be a problem. Fixed an issue where you can only select one spell after resetting skill points for Kairos Fate Weaver? The fuck was Fate Weaver? Fixed an issue where Kairos couldn't change spells and fragments of sorcery once confederated. fixed an issue where the non-default spells from the Fragments of Sorcery appear in battle, fixed an issue where multiplayer could crash if any player was playing as Kairos, weird, and fixed an issue that the Blue Scribes can now have access to the Lore of Mists, which is expected. It's nice that this character constantly gets updated. Sometimes you'd expect like CA to forget it. Nothing against CA, it just happens to devs when there's an evergreen character, essentially, for even for other games. We do have some fixes for the Ogres, so fixing the Offering to the Great Maw, effects being lost when the force is at sea, and fix certain starting armies in the Realms of Chaos campaign from being unable to move after their faction is confederated by a human faction, so human player. And Warriors of Chaos, we do have some fixes. So fix an issue where some of the units you could get from the Allegiance to the Gods and Dark Ritual mechanics didn't have the portals. Fix an issue where Lords disappear from the recruitment pool when a settlement garrison is defeated. Weird. Oh my god, Beastmen finally got the prayers answered. So remove the recruitment cost and upkeep of the Chimera when recruited in a Beastmen campaign. It's always weird when that happens. It's because they need to make multiple entries. So technically there's multiple Chimera units in the database. That's as far as I've been told. And that's how it's done, because obviously, yeah, it's for the Beastmen and they have a different system. Change one of the effects provided by the Bale Taurus Hoof enhanced item to grant 35% fire resistance to the character who has equipped it. That's very high resistance. Fix the Beastmen Devastation icon to properly show only after the Devastation ritual is complete. Fix the settlement icons of settlement still owned by factions after the Beastmen Devastation ritual is complete. Beastmen will no longer give the incorrect ambusher discovered events when switching out of their hidden income stance. High-level Beastmen herdstones, weird, will no longer sometimes appear hidden after reloading the game. Beastmen will no longer have a visible camp model remain when in stances that hide them from other factions. They'll still be visible for their masters if they are vassals. Yeah, this is kind of funny when this happens, because like you just know where they are. That's why Kazrak is so easy to spot. And here we are with the Empire. Fixed issues with Elspeth's Gunnery School missions and progression. No word on what that was. Fixed the problem with the Elector Counter-Taler Beckland, where the character's increase of timber production would not be accounted on the first turn after loading a game. And then finally, for the Empire, fixed the issue with Elspeth's Gunnery panel not having a populated tooltip. Awesome. So far, so good. Good lord, man. There's just so much here. So much. Alright, so the last bit here is basically just fixing some battle stuff, VFX, mostly just, you know, the whatever is needed, which I think is really important. Obviously some buffs and debuffs, but not a lot. It's just getting the stuff that's there, which I don't think we need to talk about too much. Overall, yeah, pretty damn good. I'm pretty happy with just big hot fixes like this. This is very important for the game. There are, let's be very honest here, there are a lot of bugs with the game. But if we're going to get loads and loads of fixes like this should make things a little bit better. The main thing is obviously seeing some other changes come into effect. But that has to be like bigger patches. Remember that the 0.0 point something or 0.1 point something, those patches are always going to be smaller. But they are very much welcome. So hopefully they can keep up the pace with this. And hopefully it won't be too long until we hear about 7.1. Because I know some people are already hoping for like some big changes coming into effect. And hopefully there is. You know, sieges, battles, AI, stuff like that is very, very important. They have done some minor AI fixes, but nothing too great here. Yeah. It's a big one. It's great. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Let's start a discussion. I am pretty late compared to when they posted this, but I have been sorting out some stuff. I'm trying to get heating installed. Yes, it's still not done. Still not done. Wild, isn't it? Honestly, people say like stuff in England is efficient. They're lying. They are so many lies. Have a great one, guys. I'll see you all again very, very soon. Bye.